Welcome to this video. So in this video, I'll be showing us how to create a checklist in Tableau and also creating a mini game using that checklist. So let's get started. I've connected to my data source, which is a simple Excel file, and this is what we have in there. I have 20 questions. However, we have 10 questions, unique questions, so but I have 20 rows of data. So each question is duplicated, and the reason is because they each have a correct and a wrong answer. So for each of the answer, we have a question duplicated. Now there's a reason why I have that there, because I want the user to be able to choose one correct answer and the two answers will be displayed, and that's why I've structured the database that way. And we'll see how this plays out as we go on in the video. So I'll create this new sheets to get started, and yes, there we have it. So we start by using or creating a checklist. And how do we go about this? I'll create two measures to create that structure. So one will be 0. I can just put it in the column. I'll put 0 and press enter. You can see that 0 is highlighted in my workbook, and I will double click and create another 0, and that's it. So I have this measure and the marks which I'll be playing with. So I'll be creating two calculated field. One will be for highlighting and the other will be for selection. You would see how that goes. And again, I got a credit from this video, which I'll be pasting in my description on how to create this checklist. But this is just like the mini stats. Just create that structure using this measure and create two calculated fields. So let's get with the first one, calculated field, and we'll name this highlights. So this highlights whatever questions we're going to be selecting. So I'll create this highlights, and in that highlights we're going to be putting a formula there, and that formula will be this. Let me just copy and paste into it, and there we have it. So this is what we have in there. So I'll explain what this formula does. Let me just add one more parenthesis. Still giving me errors, and let's see why that is. So if there is this color parameter we need to create prior to this, so if that parameter is contained in a question, then we have this. But let's just close this and start with creating the select vote. So the select will give us contains, or we'll create that parameter. So ignore this parameter that I've created before, but let's just create a brand new one. So we'll create parameter and we call it question string. So this is a calculated field. I always make that mistake. So go back and create parameter and call it question string, and it's gonna be a string which is gonna be empty as well. And change it to string type, and it's gonna be empty, and there we have it, question string. So after creating the question string, then we'll look for the parameter, the calculated field we are going to create, and we'll start with the selection one. So I'll put in this formula. So this is a very simple formula that we'll be needing to create, and I will explain it briefly. So I'll call this select. So I'll replace this with questions. This is our question field, but I'll replace it with description because that's what it's got in our data set, description. So what this particular field does is this. So is when we select, it's going to check if our parameter, which is empty, contains the question, and it's going to return true or false based on that. So that's what that would do. And now we will now create the one for highlights, which I showed earlier. So this highlights is going to contain this um conditional statements, and this is what we have. All right, so I will replace this with description because that's what holds our question. So this is just referring to our question, and I'll put this as well as description. No, I'll put description here, and this one too as description. All right, so it's still flagging error, but we'll get into that in a bit. So if contains, that is, if this parameter, okay, we need to replace this color parameter as well. In our own case, we're just going to replace a question string, which we created before, and question string. The reason why I didn't start writing this from scratch is to save us time. But question string will be the parameter here. And this one too. So what this formula is doing is, I say if this question string contains a question, then replace this question string, which is empty, with a question. So if this is true, replace this question in this question string with a comma, and plus a comma by a space. So what it does is that if it checks the question string and finds that there is this question attached in there, it's going to replace that question with a blank, which is a space. So it's going to replace this question together with a comma, because we want a comma separator in it. So together with a separator, it's going to replace these two with a space within the string. For now, it's returned false, and so that means if it is false, attach the question in there. So what this does is simply appends each of the question into the empty string. So once you click on it, once you highlight any button, once you click on it, it checks this, and if you notice that the question is not there, it puts it in there. The second time you're going to be doing your clicking through a dashboard action, is going to replace it with a space, and you see how that plays out. So let's just check our parentheses to see why this is so. This is for this one, then replace with this one else. So we don't need this. That's the meaning. Cool. So we have our formula for highlights that we've created the two measures, which is sum 0. We just put in 0 into the columns twice, and we also created the calculated fields called select and highlight. So what I'll be doing next is to improve the structure of what we see here, because if we just drop in our question, for example, in the second sum, which is this one, it's not going to show anything. Let's just put that in, so you can see. Okay, this is just select. Let's drop description, which is a question field. You can see that it is not showing anything, but we do have something there. So now the trick there is, with this particular sum 0, it's 0 because the importance of this is just to add access to this part of the visualization. So it's just on 0, so that's why I have 0 there. But if I increase the number, for example, to 20, you can see it has created an axis for us, and you can decide to edit the axis from it. So if I decide to edit axis, you will see automatic information. So what this does is it activates the axis in the visualization. However, you will see the importance of row. Row will make it the questions that are all collapsed here spread out into it, and this is why I will need to drop the question field again into rows. You can see now that all the rows are all spread out vertically, and that's the importance of using the rows. So this activates axis from 0 to 20, and this activates the vertical aspect of the visualization. All right, so the next thing I'll do is, because this is so far apart and you can see this bar is so squeezed up, so this bar is responsible the automatic activation is responsible for this bar. For example, if I switch to text, it disappears. So when you put it on automatic, it just automatically puts in bar. And I can decide to increase the bar as well, depending on what I desire to choose. But I will first of all close this space in between. And so let's just edit this axis first and see. Let's take it to custom. I want it to go from a negative number to 84, and that will help me. Let's say -5 for example, and let's see the effect. You can see that the text moved to the side. Let me just remove that and put 0. You can see that it moved tilted away to the left. So when I increase it to 5, it's creating a negative number on this side of the axis, and that's why you can see the text keeps moving. So let's change it to possibly 10. So what that does is to create the axis starting from 0 to possibly 84 or whatever you want it to be. So let's just possibly leave it to, let me see, 20, if that's not too far away. Okay, so the automatic section keeps moving to that side, but let's leave it at 10. So the bar keeps going back. Let's take it to -5. Cool. So let's leave as is, but we need to increase this bar much more. I will try 40. Let's see if that will make any change. Now the bar has expanded more. You can see that this helps increase the axis and the bar length as well. And the editing of the axis changes where the bar will start from, if it's from -5 or -1, or so that's how you play around with your visualization. And yes, so this one will help us bring, let's put this on 2. Possibly you can see that it has tilted towards that number 5. Okay, let's see something like 3. Okay, it's far away. Let's go to 1. Okay, much more far away. Let's take it to 6. Okay, so let's leave as is and possibly edit our field, or let's first of all hide this header. Okay, let's hide it. It's hidden already. So let's just see the orientation of this page. So alignment towards okay, you can see that the alignment for the field has been tilted to the left, and there we have it. Let's move this ahead. Okay, this just moves, it swaps. All right, so now that we have this bar covering our text and we have this circle still far away from it, and the purpose of the checklist is to ensure that this is closer to it, and once this is selected, you can have any of the shapes to change to ticked. All right, so what are we going to do? We're going to still maneuver using the sums, and also ensure that we maneuver using the axis, manipulate the editing of the axis, and also the numbers in here. Like I said, these numbers in here activates the axis, so we keep playing with it. So how do we close this gap? So I'll just return this to 0. From 6, I'll press 0. So what I did was to expose the axis so that I will see where the location is on the axis. So this is where it is on 0, and this is on 0 as well. There is a space between 0 and this bar because of the edit axis. When you edit, you see I have it on custom and it's fixed -5, and that's what controls where this bar is. And don't forget, the bar Okay, it was automatic before, but you can change it to bar. Let's just leave as automatic. So that's what controls the bar, the distance between the beginning and where it is. So -5 creates that gap. You see? All right, so this line is on -5. All right, so how do we make this closer? So I'll work with the dual axis part of it. Let's make this dual axis. And once we make it dual axis, is changed. And I'll synchronize it so that it's the same thing. So I'll come in here and it's synchronized, right? So I will change this to bar. You can see now that it's all covered. We do not need this 80 because we have a lot of spaces at the end. So I can decide to change this to possibly 60. Oh, so 60 is around 5. Possibly 60. And let's see what we have. Okay, so it's shorter. Let's reduce this further to something. So these are just the bits and tricks you can just make with Tableau here and there, and you can maneuver it. You can see that the bar has extended to like 40 here. So now we still need, because the axis is synchronized, it just keeps shifting together with this one. So how do we make this separate? So if I decide to reduce the size, it's just gonna shrink, but it's because behind. So you know what, I'm going to shift this. Let's change this to like -1 thereabout, and see. You can see now that it has moved further away from 0, and there we have it. We are good to go. So manipulating the dual axis, synchronizing it, makes it all together on the same axis, and you can move them together and they will work as a singular object. And also changing the positioning of this, from changing the number here, we'll place it in the right position, and we're good to go. All right, so let's just quickly go to, let me close this format button. So we have the template for our Excel, or for our checklist. So what we are going to do next is to put the right fields into each of the measures. So for this first measure, which is -1, I'm going to put in the select one into the shape, because that is what we're going to be working with. Once we click on it, I do not want this measure in my color. Okay, so once we select, there will be a response from it, and I'll put in the highlight, yes, into color. No, let's not leave it in color because it's just going to model it up. Let's just put it in detail, and there we have it. So I'll come in here and change. Yeah, we have description already. I'll remove the measure name and I'll put select into colors, and I'll put the highlight into detail because I just want it in detail. Do you have, okay, here. So what you don't want in the view, which you can just put in the detail. You don't want it to build the view, but you just want it to work with the view. You put it in detail. So we've been able to put the necessary calculated field, and we've created our template. I will just hide this axis show header here, so we do not need that, and we still do not need the description aspect of it. So we're good to go. So how does this function as a checklist? When we select what goes on, and that will be the next thing we'll be looking into.